Hey, welcome to the Fabric of Culture podcast, episode 18, where I interview different creatives and get insights into their life so you can apply it to your life. And with me, I have, introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, my name is Anais. I'm a singer, songwriter, music artist, and freelance model. I do a lot of random things. But yeah, my main gig is music, and I'm really, really happy to be here with you.
I'm happy you're here. You're very multifaceted. How did you get into music originally?
So I love this question. I feel like it chose me, if that makes sense,
Mm.
because I've always I've always been into music since I was a child. I think like the first experience of it I had singing in front of people. I was 2 years old and I sang myself happy birthday.
You sang yourself happy birthday. I love it.
Yeah, yeah. So I've always loved music. I started taking voice lessons probably when I was like 11 years old. Studied classical opera in college, and then was like, I don't know if this is like gonna be my path. And so now I'm doing electronic pop, and I love it. Writing my own music, and it's a lot of fun. So
That's so cool. Would you say that your opera has any influence on your electronic music?
it definitely does. I would say a lot of like so opera is very big, if that makes sense. So like if you've ever
Yeah.
been to the opera, the sound is big. So you have like the orchestra, you have percussion, you have your brass section, then of course you have singers and all of that. So the goal of opera singing is to be able to really project your voice. And so aside from like the stylistic things in my music, which are I like to go for very big sounds. So like the boldness feeling of opera, I like to
Mm.
incorporate it in my music. But also, vocal range is something that I really developed in my study of voice and classical opera. So I like to go all over the place, range wise.
Yeah.
So if you're hearing it in my music, I'll be singing really low, and then like a different part, I'm singing super high. So it's something that I like to do. But I feel like the intensity and I guess the boldness of opera music is something that I really, really love implementing into what I currently write.
I'm curious about that bit. So like an opera audience and there's like an electronic music audience.
Mm-hmm.
How much do you think there is crossover? And two, for you, how do you make it sound audibly pleasing to your new
Mm-hmm.
audience, basically?
Yeah, I think because most of the people who have been following my journey have known me in kind of like lots of different phases of music.
Mm-hmm.
And so some of them have known me since I was like really young and just doing like mostly contemporary music. And then some of them heard me singing opera, musical theater stuff. And then now they're hearing me do electronic pop. So, but I feel like there is like a really nice little niche there, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because like, even though I'm not singing like opera stylistically in my music, I feel like a lot of similar elements people can appreciate from opera to electronic pop. So, I mean, I'm a lover of both
Yeah.
personally, but I feel like I'm also a result of that crossover because I, was trained classically for a very long time, but I still always loved electronic music. So,
I understand that feeling. What are the similar elements between the two?
yeah, so I would say that I would say in opera or at least classical music, there's always like a build up. So like there's let's see, Wagner is a really good example. Really, really intense, big sound, and so I feel like depending on the style of music or like more modern music, like electronic pop, whatever it is, I feel like those same elements are built into it. So you have like the build up and then you have like the drop, okay? Like
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
going like there's similar things
Mm-hmm.
in classical opera. They just sound different. So maybe you'll have like a solo with a string instrument, but then the conductor or like the composer decides to like just really, 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 really build it. And so there'll be this big crescendo, a decrescendo, and there's, music is similar,
Yeah,
like
for
even
sure.
not in class. So there's a lot of like this dynamics and I don't know. Like I feel like there's a lot of elements that still cross over. Oops. Um, because it's still all music, right? It's just the instruments are a little bit different now.
Yeah, it has a different feel to it. So when
Yeah.
it's almost like an expectation, really,
Mm-hmm.
because I'll be honest, I listen to almost everything, but classical,
Yeah.
it's not opera. Those two
Mm-hmm.
things like that aren't really in my wheelhouse. The things I
Mm-hmm.
used to listen to when I did music, but
Mm-hmm.
before, other than that, or when I was in theater, but other than that, I
Yeah.
never really listened to that type of music.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you shining a light on that makes it made me think of other genres where
Mm-hmm.
it takes elements from other genres. So it's like I noticed like hip hop samples like a lot of like classical
Yes,
as well, and
exactly.
other like symphonies and things like
Mm-hmm.
that, where it's you hear this and you wouldn't realize that they took from this and made it their own.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And there, I mean, there is an emerging genre of like popera. I mean, I don't necessarily consider myself a popera artist because I still sing pretty much like um, pop music
Mm-hmm.
style, and I'm not singing too much opera, but I still pull from those influences, and it still influences a lot of the stuff that I write. So, for example, I'm writing a new album, and it is heavily inspired by one of my favorite composers from the French Romantic era, Ernest Chausson. So, yeah, I'm really excited about it. I can't wait to share more about it. I'm really excited for this album. And, but yeah, a lot of the elements are coming from like these string. He really does this beautiful, like, he has such a talent for like really drawing out like string ensembles where like it's creating like this tension and then there's a release and there's like
Mm.
very longing feelings, but also very romantic and lucid at the same time. So that's kind of like the elements I'm pulling from inspiration from his compositions into like my modern music, which is,
So
it sounds a little bit
when
different.
you when you pull
Mhm.
from that, is it say I'm taking the emotion, the sound, or
Mhm.
is it like a little bit of both?
It's kind of a little bit of both. So whether it's I'm looking at the dynamics or how they create tension and release within a piece of music. So like it's very in his style to do things a certain way, and I can only do that in my own style.
Mm-hmm.
But just watching how he did that, I'm like, okay, that's really interesting. Like chord that he used there, I really like the tension that he built with like this chord and that chord combined or whatever it is, or just different modalities. So yeah, I don't know. Like there's a lot more I could probably say, but I'm
Yeah.
not trying to get into like the theory of it.
Well, I want to play a game with you. For so, what's one thing you want to add to your music from like different genres or different artists? We can do
Mm,
genres than artists.
yeah. Oh,
So like,
okay.
what's like one element you want to add to your music, or something you respect from those?
Mhm. Okay. So I guess from different artists, I would say, oh, this is so hard because I feel like so many different artists do, like they do their own thing so well.
Yeah.
Um, Oh man, I'm really a big fan of Porter Robinson, to be honest. Like he's so
Yes.
versatile,
Oh
like
my
he's
gosh.
so diverse, and like just the way he's been able to transition from so many things. I want like I don't correct me if I'm wrong, but I want to say like he has some like classical music influence too. I'm not
I'm
like I
not sure, but
maybe
I
I'm
feel like
thinking
that's true. Yeah.
I don't know. Like, don't
Yeah.
quote me on that, guys. Don't quote me on that. Okay, I probably will have to Google that later. But yeah, his music started off like electronic, and now he's
Hmm.
like in this kind of like hyper pop era,
Yeah.
and I think
I'm
it's
liking each stage.
I love it. I love it. So I think one thing that I really enjoy that he does and I appreciate is just the boldness to do whatever he wants to do.
Yeah.
And so and I think sadly a lot of artists kind of get stuck in their own genre and they feel like they can't really branch out, and partially it's probably because of their labels or whoever's managing them, like they're kind of like forced into a box and
Hmm.
can't fully be creative. But I really appreciate when artists just kind of like go crazy and do their own thing. So I would say that's like a big thing that I appreciate of his. um Geez, who else? I mean, I love.
That's a good one, and I appreciate his honesty as well. It's like opening up where
Yeah.
he's mentioned a few times, several times, where it's like
Mhm.
I'm not sure. He wasn't sure which lane he wanted to go, and he wasn't sure what to make next.
Yeah.
Especially if it's basically like suffering from success.
Yeah.
Like people have this expectation of you, and like you said, they put you in a box. So not only is your label putting you in a box, but your audience is putting you in a box.
Exactly.
And so, which way do I go? What do I do?
Yeah, and I think the fan base he's built too are just people that genuinely like care about him as a person, versus like, oh, I only like you when you're doing electronic music. So I don't know. That's kind of what I've seen, and I would categorize myself within that as well. Like I think he's a cool person. I think a lot of his vulnerability is what like attracts me to be part of his fan base myself. And I think also one other one would be another group, but Gioli and Asia. They are based out of Italy, and they're like progressive house, I think. Okay. And they're like multi-instrumentalists. Like I think like they're insanely talented. So like they'll be playing like hand drum, they'll be playing guitar, piano, I mean, like you name it. And then on top of that, they're both like live DJing as well, and they're live, like they're playing all the other instruments live. So I like, that's another element I like to have in the sets that I do. Like I love playing my instruments live. I also play piano, and I love singing live. I'm still working more on like the live like DJ elements, I guess, because I feel like that would add a lot more. Like
what
it
do you
could
mean
just
by that with the elements?
Yeah, so right now I use my synth when I perform, and so what I'm doing is like I'll create a track inside my synth, and then I'm using loops to create every single one of my tracks. So like I'm building on top of it, and then I'm singing, and I'm also playing piano while I'm like looping. So there's a lot going on. Yeah. But yeah, that's one of the things I love, and that I would want to incorporate more of. Just like I want to have more instruments. I want to go crazy. Yeah. So yeah, I'm working on it.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot.
Yeah.
How do you keep it all balanced? Basically, how do you keep control of so many elements?
Practice. Practice. Yeah. My first show that I did, like kind of when I started my music artist journey, was at Andy's up in Denton. And I was so nervous because I had never actually done that on stage. It was always just live instruments, and I was never using a synth myself.
So before that, was it just like live and piano?
Yeah, it would just be my voice and like piano, or it would be me and like another instrumentalist, either guitar or piano, or maybe there was a band. But I never had to like cue all my tracks while playing, while singing. So I was extremely nervous.
I can't even imagine.
But when I did it, I was like, oh, like. I mean, I've been practicing, and then after I finished that gig, I was like, okay, yeah, like, I found my groove. Like, this is my jam. I can do this. And so my tracks have gotten progressively more complex. So now I'm, like, having to, like, turn certain tracks up and down while I'm singing, and, cue this. Okay, mute that track now while I'm singing and playing piano. So it's fun. It's a lot of fun. I really enjoy it, and it keeps like what I'm doing interesting as well. And I think it also shows people that while I am definitely a singer, that's my main thing, but I also can create my own music, and I can still perform live with my piano as well. So I'm not just a singer, I'm a musician, and I'm producing my tracks inside of my synth. Now, don't call me to produce anything for you like software. I don't do that yet. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Is that something you want to learn in the future, or? I
know, like deep in my gut, that it's in my trajectory. I just haven't begun that process yet. So.
Is it that you know that it'll be challenging, or is it I don't have the time because I'm working on the other crafts of my music?
It's probably a little bit of both, because I know it would be a learning curve as far as like software goes, and then just learning like the technical side of it, but also that my primary focus is being an artist, and my main joy is writing music and performing live. So if I do production, it would be supplementary to what I'm currently doing, and probably just produce my own music. So. Or maybe others. We'll see. I'm not going to put myself in a box. We've been talking about that. But
Yeah, there's
yeah.
no need to trap yourself.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll
Going
see what
off the
happens.
producing part, how would you describe like the collaborative process with
Mhm.
making music with others, other producers, other musicians?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I have historically only written by myself.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's something that's changed a lot this year. I've done a lot more collaboration. So there's a few different ways that happens. So if I'm writing by myself, there's a couple of different ways that happen. So usually I will get like just like this download immediately within like 5 minutes. I have a song written.
Mm.
Like I'll hear everything at one time. Or or I'm thinking of a concept or an idea and I'm like, oh, I really like this. Let me see if I can write something. And then it'll take me longer to do that, like maybe several hours, several days,
Yeah.
a week, 2 weeks, I don't know. But that's usually how that goes. And then I build the track around the melody and the lyrics. So when I'm collaborating with someone else, either they'll send me a completed track and they're like, hey, we want you to write a song to this. And I'm like, okay, I vibe with the track. I can work with this. Or like I'm working on a current project with another artist named Blue Capricorn, and he's more of an experimental artist doing some ambient stuff too. And I think it's amazing because we're kind of like pushing each other in a way and like growing each other. So like we're trying new things with music.
You're like on the same wavelength and you're helping each other grow.
Yeah, I mean like we do, like our genres are different, but it's really fun to be able to collaborate with someone like that because I'm like, okay, this is how your brain works when you're writing music. This is how my brain works when I'm writing music. And like learning from each other and also just like connecting with somebody else in that space of being creative where it's like, okay, like this is fun. This is cool. So we're working on a song that I don't know when it'll be released, but we're planning on recording that next month. So that's exciting too.
So what is the process for that? Like what's the limbo or how it works when say you've worked through creating the song?
Mm-hmm.
Is it just getting it, you both agreeing when it's time to release it, or how does that work?
Yeah, really just us deciding when we want to release it, which I mean there's several things that kind of have to happen before then. Like the song has to be recorded, so however soon enough we can get into a studio and get something produced, we'll definitely determine the release date, and then making sure we have like all the marketing ready to go by the release date. So it's like giving ourselves enough time to market the single or the song or whatever it is that we're doing, and also like taking the time to put into releasing it. So there's a lot of different elements. It's very like you have to have a good little schedule for yourself. So
I wanna focus on the marketing element.
Yeah.
What do you do for the marketing? What's your game plan when you have a song that say this is a song I'm excited about? I know my audience will love it.
Yeah. Not enough, to be honest with you. Like it's one of the things that is my weak point right now. It's not my biggest talent, if that makes sense. Not that I can't do marketing, but I know there are other people out there that could probably do a better job than me.
Yeah. That's my weakness. That's honestly like I was so curious.
Like,
I was like, what are you?
I'm such a creative, but when it comes to marketing, I'm just like, it's like the bane of my existence.
Mm-hmm.
But currently, definitely like social media is all the free stuff. I do that, and then occasionally I'll like get an ad that's like pretty affordable, not spending hundreds of dollars or anything like that. But I do think it's something really important, and not enough artists probably put emphasis into. Like you're so excited about releasing your music and like doing live shows. You're like, oh wait, I have to market this. I have to promote this stuff. Like, who is my audience? Like, where am I gonna promote this? And so, kind of, I have had to think about that a lot. This
I feel
year,
like that's it's a common creative problem where people just like, I did good, just throw it out there.
I did good.
Now I'm done.
Yeah. And then it's like, okay, now what?
So, oh yeah, I was supposed to like
Yeah.
let people know this is out there instead of just like throwing it on the table.
Exactly. Yeah.
For you, what's a project you were working on where things just didn't work out, or a song you were really proud of but you couldn't get it out there, or And the vice versa. What's a song you're really proud of that you're excited that's coming out soon?
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. Like there's been a couple times where people will like reach out to me with a track, and I'm just like, it's not that it's a bad track or anything. I'm just like, I don't know. Like I'm not feeling it personally. Not that it sounds bad. I'm just like, I don't know.
It's just not for you.
It's just not working out. And so I'll if it's like a really bad writer block that I get with the piece, I kind of take it as a hint, like, okay, well, maybe it's just not meant to work out. And I'm like, okay, if it's taken me like a month to try to figure out like what to write for this, then I already know there's a problem, because normally like it's pretty quick. At least not a month long.
Yeah. So it doesn't take this long. This is probably
it's probably a sign that maybe I should just pivot and like focus my energy somewhere else. So that's one example, but yeah, I just have so much music I've written that's kind of in the backlog, and I haven't recorded all of it. So that's kind of what I'm focusing on next, is getting more music produced and getting it out there. Because I have 5 songs out, one of which is a collaboration, and the other 4 were all songs that I wrote, and then I had produced by a very talented producer. So yeah, I hope that answers the question.
It does. Yeah. And what about the second part? What's a song you're proud of that you're excited that's coming out?
Yeah, I'm really proud of this album I kind of mentioned. Well, it's technically an EP, but it's really, really close to my heart, and it's based on a dream that I had, which basically the premise of the dream was me kind of meeting my child self and having to say goodbye to that. And so, and basically the child representing like the real me and like who I am authentically. And so after I woke up, I was like, I don't want to say goodbye to like the things I love. If I have to choose to be with this person or be in a certain lifestyle that forces me to not be in my full authentic self, then I don't want it. And so that's kind of where my artist name Adieu Anaïs came from. I didn't want to say goodbye, which that's what adieu means in French. I didn't want to say goodbye to my true self. And so this EP is all about kind of like that experience within the dream world. So like finding this space where I'm like, oh my gosh, I can be myself, I can be free here, but then having to say goodbye. So it's kind of like bittersweet, and but also very kind of cathartic, and just there's so much emotion under there. And I think it's an experience that a lot of people have, where they kind of have to push away part of their authentic selves to even exist in this world. So yeah.
What would you say like are the common emotions that you would feel experiencing that?
Yeah, I would say like there's some moments like of ecstasy in the music where it's just like, wow, like I am completely free. This is like I'm in my own space that I've created here. And I would love to elaborate more on this dream, but that'd probably take too long. But the other feelings are like the feelings of the fleetingness of these moments at the same time. It's like I'm having this beautiful time, just experiencing the things that I truly love and that are really a part of me, and then having to say goodbye. So kind of like that's a fleeting moment, experiencing like that liberating happiness, and then also the sadness of, oh man, like how do I get back to that, and then trying to get back to that place. So yeah.
So I'm curious, how do you, when you're making music or when you're working on your craft in general, how do you accept that fleeting moment while keeping like pushing forward, basically?
Yeah, it's called how do I explain this? So one thing that I like to acknowledge in just everyday moments is impermanence. And so basically nothing lasts, nothing is permanent. Absolutely nothing is permanent. Okay. One day I will die. I'm not permanent. I won't be in this body forever. This building will not be here probably in the next 100 years. We never know.
Yeah.
And so everything is subject to change. And so realizing that and really accepting that kind of helps a lot, where it's like, okay, I'm very happy right now, but I'm not getting attached to the happiness, or I'm not getting attached to what I'm doing, but I'm allowing myself to experience it without grasping onto the experience and then chasing it.
Yeah.
So not chasing, but kind of allowing things to kind of flow in and out as they should. So I feel like that was very profound.
That's something I just struggle with in general. Where it's like, like I know it's like nothing lasts forever, but it's like the acceptance of it
exactly
is like a hard pill to swallow.
It is. It's very humbling. It's very humbling. And I think the more people that kind of come to terms with this idea of impermanence, I think the more happiness people will have.
Yeah.
Because like we can't hold on to anything. Like we have less control over the things we do than we think.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But it's a weird shuffle because I know like I can't control everything.
Yeah.
But it's the idea of putting my effort in that way. I can control what I can control. So if you put your 100% in, maybe it's like 50-50, maybe it's like 60-40, who knows? But at least I put my full effort into the other bit.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's a good point too. So there is only so many things that we can control, but I guess what I'm trying to say is like I can't control whether or not I love music. It's just there.
Yeah.
I didn't choose it. Like I don't know. It's just happened. It's just there, and I love it, and I choose to create a life around creating music and making music and enjoying it in its many different forms.
It's just a part of my heart.
It's just a part of me. Like so. Yeah. Exactly. So, but there are things that we can do day to day to where we're staying consistent and we're working towards the things that we do want. So, and the outcomes that we want. Not being attached to them, but working towards a goal and saying, okay, it may not work out exactly how I want it, but I'm still putting in the work. I'm still practicing every day. I'm still writing music. I'm still getting my music produced. I'm still collaborating. I'm still marketing. I'm still doing all these things. And whether or not I end up being super famous, that's not necessarily where my head is. It's just I want to be who I am authentically. And if success and all these other things happen to come along with it, so be it. So, and if not, that's okay too. But I'm doing what I love, and that's what's most important to me. So.
Yeah, that's something I've been working on like the last year or two, where it's just enjoying the process, sticking to that rhythm of these are things I'm working on. Yeah. I'm doing them because I'm passionate about them. And if something else comes from it, then it comes like it reaches me.
Exactly.
But otherwise, I still kept on doing what I love. So
yeah, that's what's most important, honestly.
So I think I want to end with this. What's something like a humbling experience music-wise and something you're really proud of music-wise that you've accomplished?
Yeah, I think probably the most humbling experience music-wise. So a couple years ago, or was that 3 years ago? I don't remember. It's kind of a blur now. But so I was hospitalized in 2022. Hospitalized the summer of 2022, and at that point I already like decided I'm just not gonna get back into music, whatever. Like I'm gonna be in corporate America forever, and that's gonna be my life. And being hospitalized humbled me a lot because I'm like, wow, I'm not invincible. I'm not gonna live forever. And even though I stay healthy and take care of myself, like I'm still not in control whether some crazy thing from like left field comes out and decides wants to put me in the hospital. So, which is kind of what happened. But while I was in the hospital, I'm like, man, like, what am I doing? Like, what am I doing? Like, truly, what am I doing with myself? I'm working at a job I don't really want to be at. It's not my passion. I really love music, and I'd pretty much like given up at that point. And so when I got out of the hospital, I was like, no, I have to go back. I don't care what I do. I don't care like what tiny little steps I have to take to get there, but I'm going to do that. And so for me, that was a humbling experience, realizing that I am...
You're mortal and you weren't doing what you wanted to do.
Exactly. I'm immortal. Like, you know, I'm not going to live my life forever. Well, I'll live it as long as I'm going to live it.
Yeah.
That's all pretty much I know. So I would say that's really humbling. But also, I'm really proud of myself for taking that jump because it was scary. It was so scary. I was so used to having a 9-to-5 and then having all the flexibility and freedom. I was like, oh, what am I doing with myself? Like, I can play video games all day. Oh, I probably shouldn't do that.
There's so many fun distractions.
There's so many fun distractions, exactly. So, yeah, I would say just getting back out there and really just being vulnerable, because all my music is very vulnerable. It tells stories like of very deep and difficult experiences that I've gone through in life, and getting to share those with other people is what I'm mostly proud of just putting my music out there, not being afraid of what people are going to think. How many people listen to it or don't listen to it, like, it's out there.
Yeah.
So, and I did it. And I never thought that I would get to a place where I was doing that. So
that's
yeah.
cool. How do you embrace the vulnerability in that aspect? Like,
I think part of it comes from just an authenticity, if that makes sense. Like, I can only be who I am, and so when it comes to vulnerability in music, it's like what I experience as a human, not as like a woman, not as anything else. Like, I try to write about, you know, my human experience first and foremost, and everyone can relate to that. Everyone can relate to loss. Everyone can relate to going through depression. Everyone can relate to being alone at some point or feeling alone. Everyone can relate to maybe being in love at some point or losing like, these are all things that everyone experiences in their life, regardless of race, gender, sexuality, regardless of all of that, socioeconomic status. Like, these are all things every single person experiences. So that's kind of what I like to write about. And to me, that is kind of where my vulnerability comes from.
So it's almost, no, it is like vulnerability combined with a great storytelling. So it's, this is who I am, this is what I've been dealing with, but then someone else can feel that same emotion because, oh, this is relatable, this is something I felt before.
Yeah, exactly. And so kind of that's my goal. I want to be able to relate to everyone without kind of excluding any kind of people. So, not saying that every person in the world is going to love my music. Yeah. But, like, I know there are people that probably...
You heard it here first. Everyone will love her music.
You know. Everyone will love my music. So, but yeah, that's kind of where my heart is in writing. Just having those connections and being able to... Even though I can't see or talk to the person that might be listening to my music, I'm still... My essence is still connecting with them, and I think... that's beautiful.
Yeah, you're talking to them through opening up.
Yeah.
So that is the communication, and it's beautiful that way.
Yeah.
That's why I don't know, just that's why music captures people so well.
Yeah, exactly. It's the universal language for a reason. So if you don't understand English or Spanish or whatever, you can listen to any music and still feel the emotion behind it without understanding the words. So, yeah.
This was great. Thank you.
Thank you. I mean, I was not expecting to say half the things I said, but I'm like, we're here.
Yeah, I love it. And with that, just remind them, shout out your socials and the EP that's coming.
Yeah, I haven't even recorded the EP, but again, my socials are adieu.anais on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. Those are really the only three that I use. But I do have a website, which is anaismusic.com. And I have a show actually coming up May 25th with How to Be Social and that's gonna be a really really fun show.
Cool,
There's
cool.
also like an arcade setup, so that's gonna be a little bit of music and gaming at the same time. So that's gonna be a vibe.
Ooh, I'm gonna check it out.
Yeah. Or wait, is it the 26th? I'm sorry, it's the 26th, not the 25th.
All right. And with that, take care and live a life led without regret.
Yay, we did it.
Roll with it, roll with it. Got to drive on the ride, never feel going live, channel 5, going live, channel 5. Got to drive on the ride, never feel more alive. Going live, channel 5, going live, channel 5.